What's up everyone? Today I want to teach you how to sumo deadlift, but I have no idea what I'm doing. So I've hired a couple of personal trainers here. They're going to give me some of their time and teach me how to sumo. So first question, what is a sumo deadlift?
It's an ancient art form from Japan.
Okay.
Yep. Not his hips, that was farting.
Some rice.
That allows you to produce a lot of power in the groinal regions.
Okay, perfect. Now, why would someone want to do a sumo deadlift? What are the advantages?
Yeah.
Cheat.
Yeah.
Okay, cheat.
Depending on how you're built, it'll reduce range of motion, so you have to move the bar less distance.
Okay.
Can take some pressure off your low back. Can build up the glutes and hips a little bit. And it's just a great way to switch things up, right? Everyone would never argue that close grip bench is a good assistance for a wide grip bench or a normal grip bench. But once you start talking deadlifts or squats, people argue.
Right, yeah.
But it's just another stance, another weapon in the toolbox. It's
strong.
another thing.
Yeah, if you can lift more weight that way and you're a competitive power lifter, why not lift more weight that way? Also, sometimes, every once in a while, we get screwed up, right? We get hurt. If you hurt your knee on the squat, maybe you can't squat for a while, but maybe you're able to sumo deadlift, which would kind of mimic a squat.
And in terms of strongman, maybe build up your glutes, your hips, even a weightlifter. Sometimes a power clean, something like
Show
that.
them the glutes.
You want a glutes? I'll show you glutes.
Look at that. Look at the panty lines.
Yeah, what? I didn't know panty lines were a big deal for guys.
Yeah, huge panty lines.
Emma, or my coworker, I guess, was talking shit on my panty lines, but I thought that was a chick thing. I didn't know I had to wear a thong with my basketball shorts and hide my panty.
But why are the panty lines weird when you're wearing like a boxer brief? Like why?
Yeah, these are
you're
fucking normal.
You're not wearing underwear that
It looks like you're wearing
Yeah,
some real slim
that's
cut.
because
But I think
back
the
to the
ladies are
glutes.
getting excited and they're thinking the underwear is one of their ass.
So that's what's happening because of my glutes. It gets
Yeah.
hungry.
This is a separate video.
They're hungry glutes.
Separate video.
They're hungry glutes
Our
for sumo
underpants is a
deadlifts.
separate video.
Yeah, sorry guys.
So some say that you're the greatest sumo deadlifter in the world, right?
And they're 100% wrong.
Not all the time. Man.
So okay, sumo is pretty much cheating, right? So if you're good at sumo, you probably suck at conventional, right?
So I don't want to play devil's advocate of these haters online. It does irk me a little wrong when there are guys that can only pull like 225 conventional and these motherfuckers are pulling 600 sumo. I think that, for lack of a better word, is a little bit of cheating.
Yeah.
Like you're cheating yourself in that case, where take the time to build up your back, build up your
Be
lats.
strong, yeah.
My personal best in the gym is 655 for 2 conventional, and in a random Power Ranger outfit was 675 sumo. So they're right there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And Mark's very similar. 725 conventional.
I did a 699 sumo in a contest, and sumo raw. I think I did 675. But I never
They're right
tried.
there.
I never tried any heavier.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with getting strong from multiple angles.
Right.
Angle of the dangle, buddy. You got it.
All right, so let's get to it.
All right.
First, we'll break this down. Let's talk about foot position. So where do I need to put my feet in relation to the bar?
So almost everything's going to be very similar to conventional, where it's going to take trial and error to get you where you need to go.
Okay.
But first, what we're going to say is maybe a foot outside your shoulders.
Why don't
Okay.
you stand over here, buddy? Stand over there.
Yes, sir.
Get out of our video. For a second. So we're
Welcome to Super Training Gym.
No. You stand over there and watch for a minute. We got our shit together over here. So what we want to do is we want to figure out where we want to put our feet first in terms of how wide we're going to put our feet. How wide we put our feet is determined by
Basically, how wide I can get my knees over my ankles over my midfoot. So if I'm out here and I can't get my knees over here by my feet, I'm not going to be able to activate my quads, get speed off the ground. We're going to be fucked. That's going to depend on how long you are here, and how mobile you are through the hips. So for me, who's a shitty sumo puller, I'm going to go a little more narrow.
So there's 2 other things we're thinking about. We're thinking about foot placement in the sumo deadlift. We're thinking about how far our feet are going to be turned out. You do want your feet to be turned out because we have to deal with the barbell being in our way. If our feet are straight ahead, then the barbell is going to be in the way of our leg. Our legs are going to be in the way of the barbell and be in the way of actually performing the lift the right way. So we have to point our toes outward slightly. The other concern that we have here with foot placement is how close we get to the barbell. How close or how far away you are from the barbell is determined by
Leverages, mobility, arm length, femur length, etc. Going on that same line, often conventional deadlift, we'll get a little bit of a shin lean. We're going to get our quads involved that way. 90% of the time sumo, we're gonna want a totally vertical shin. The only time you won't have a totally vertical shin is if you're built kind of like a freak, tiny little torso, really long arms, in which case you can kind of get away with
And some huge quads where you want to maybe squat it up.
Yeah.
But in general,
we're gonna want these totally straight.
in general, you want the knees forward on a conventional deadlift, and you want the shin angle to be straight up and down when you do a sumo pull. That's a big difference between the two lifts. So now that Mike's got his foot positioning down, his hands are going to go inside of where his legs are. That's a big difference between sumo and conventional. His hands are inside of where his legs are rather than being outside. We like to preach here at Super Training that you just bend from the hips. You hinge from the hips to grab the barbell. We're not concerned about what you're doing with your back at this point. A lot of times we teach people to go from kind of a crappy position. I know people get a little worried about that. We teach people to go from a crappy position to a good position because I think that a lot of times people don't have any way of interpreting things unless they actually feel it and get the sensation for it. So we could all agree, hips high, back kind of rounded, not a great position to pull from, but not a bad way to reach down and grab the barbell. Still totally safe. We haven't loaded anything up quite yet. What we're going to start to do here is we're going to start to organize our spine, but we're going to do it by utilizing some tension through the barbell and through our hands and through our forearms and through our biceps and triceps all the way into our lats and all the way into our mid and upper back. So he's going to kind of pull on the bars. We're going to utilize the bar as leverage as we do on all three lifts. He's going to get himself in position. Now he's ready to pull the weight. Once we pull the weight, when we do a deadlift, whether it's conventional or sumo, it's a push into the floor. You're pushing into the floor like you're trying to push the floor away from you, twerking like Mike's doing there. Drop it like a top, drop it like a top. And we're trying to pull the weight into us. A lot of times we're trying to pull the weight into us with our upper body, so if you can picture that, that's a good visual for you. One thing that we want to try to stress at the bottom of the lift is many things that you have preached many, many times over on your channel, is that we're not ended up in some sort of weird compromised funky position with our neck. Our head's not up too high, it's not down too low. We're not rounded excessively, we're not arched excessively. We're finding a good, strong, neutral, powerful position. Obviously the abs are turned on and our stomach is tight. We're getting air into our stomach. We're keeping all that on lockdown. The last thing that we're going to be concerned with, and sort of the hardest thing to kind of envision, hardest thing to get in touch with, is the don't allow anybody to tickle your armpits from behind technique, which is basically him turning his lats on and him dropping down into his lats and keeping his arms basically close to his body. To try to simplify things a little bit, we're just trying to keep our arms close to our body, which is kind of weird because we would do something similar when we do a squat. Right. We would do something similar when we do a bench press. So in a lot of ways, some of these movements seem complicated, but they can all be boiled down to having a bunch of similar things, a bunch of similarities to them.
Yeah, the conventional sumo aren't as different as people want to make it. Stance, I'd say there's a little more emphasis in the twerk in the ground. So grabbing the ground, twisting out, getting those knees out of the bar pathway. You don't really have to think about your knees getting out of the way in conventional, they just kind of do. And then often it's a little bit easier doing that last part Mark talked about. When you're kind of in here, especially double overhand, it's pretty easy to do something like this, kind of old bodybuilding pull down. Cover the armpits with the shoulders, keeping that bar close to you and engaging your lats. It's a little bit easier, otherwise it's kind of the same.
So when would you say, when you said to get in this position, I'm not going to set up, but when you said to get down into a good starting position, where's your starting position? How do I know if I've gone past that starting position?
Right. You're going to kind of come off tension a little bit. What we're looking for is to get a little bit of that clink out of the barbell. You shouldn't hear that when you actually lift. That should happen before you even start your lift. You should pull the slack out of the bar. And you're going to feel the right position by just feeling what's the most powerful for you. So as Mike goes to drop in position, he's going to start. It's really, really important that you're not just listening to what I'm saying, that you're actually practicing this and you're actually feeling these sensations for yourself. If you don't ever feel these things for yourself, you'll never know what the fuck it is that I'm talking about exactly. So he's getting as much tension as he can, and that's his cue to go. Also your cue to go is when you make contact, when your shins make contact with the barbell. So some people like to kind of get the barbell really close to their shins the whole time, but a lot of times for us, we'll have the barbell be slightly away from us. As we drop in position and get everything just right, the barbell is going to make contact with the shin. As soon as that happens, boom, we're going like hell, going into the pull.
Would you say the upper body in relation to the barbell is similar to conventional, and then like shoulder blades kind of over the bar? Shoulders should be covering the bar. It shouldn't be behind.
Yeah. So if the bar, if your shoulders actually end up behind the bar, if you want to film from the side, what I was going to add to Mark's is this is a good time to film yourself, because no matter when you start to tug on the bar, the plates won't move until your hips are in the best position.
Right.
They'll kind of just do that. So if I'm way behind the bar like this, all I can do is pull it this way.
Yeah, you're just pulling back.
Right, and we're trying to pull this bar up.
Yeah.
Two, like Mark said, we're using the bar to get tight, and then it's a kind of a weird cue because it doesn't explain much, but hips back. Everyone says hips back, but what does that really mean? If you're pushing your hips this way, pulling the bar towards you, you'll kind of feel your hammies start to lock up, and that will put your hips in the right place rather than hips down. Here's a hips down pull, knees in a ship place, backs in a ship place, and now I'm kind of squatting it up.
Right.
But even if I pull on it, I'm going to end up here before I actually
you're just going to
pull.
throw yourself into the position that you want to pull.
Right, so videotape yourself, repeat, and get better.
Right.
Yeah, videotaping yourself and seeing kind of where you end up when the weights actually jump off the ground. When you go back and watch that, you're going to think to yourself, okay, let me try to find a happy medium between what I'm actually trying to do and when the weights come off the ground, and you'll probably end up with the best results for where you should actually be
Right.
with your hips.
Okay.
A couple things to keep in mind with any style of deadlift is we want our stomach tight. We want to try to get our hips lower than our shoulders. It's something that's really, really important, and you got to try to keep that throughout the range of motion. And when I say that we're trying to do that, we're just trying our best. Sometimes shit's going to get unraveled. And we're trying to keep our back flat. So the things are pretty simple. We're trying to keep our stomach tight. Everyone should be able to, over a period of time, start to understand what that means. Your back being flat, everyone should start to understand what that means. These are things you can do at your house. You could sit there like this and be like, this is rounded, and this is flat, this is rounded, this is neutral. You can start to learn those things. Play around and investigate your own body on your own time, your own private time. And the last thing is hips lower than the shoulders. So if Mike could just set up again here, when he drops down to the bar, he's not too concerned about where his hips are just yet. You can see his hips are kind of in line with his shoulders, and right now his shoulders are actually lower than his hips. But now he's going to scoot himself into position by using the bar. Hips are much lower than the shoulders. He'll pull from there. Now sometimes you run into some female lifters or some lifters with some longer limbs, and their shoulders and hips are going to be a little closer to each other on how far down their hips are versus how high their shoulders are. Every once in a while, you'll run into somebody that can get way out wide. They can really force their knees out really good, and they get this kind of crazy position. But in general, you want those hips to be locked in and kind of almost underneath the shoulders. And you want your hips lower than your shoulders before you start that pull. And as Mike said, the weight should almost be floating off the ground. Warm-up weights, 135, maybe 225 for some of you stronger guys out there. But 135, even male, female, doesn't matter. That weight should be kind of floating off the ground when you got maximum tension and maximum tightness.
Okay. To not open another can of worms, what Mark was talking about is exactly how you eventually, or a coach would evaluate you on if you're a better sumo or conventional puller. If your shoulders are in the proper position, correlated to the bar, your back's flat, and then where your hips are. If your hips are a little bit lower, you're going to be a little bit closer to the bar, a little bit almost already closer to a lockout. Hips close to the bar is another cue for sumo. I don't really like it, because then you'll get people going like this.
Yeah.
Trying to get their hips really close to the bar.
Right.
Hips close to the bar basically just means as soon as you get that bar moving, right, it's different than actually just getting your hips to the bar.
Right.
But you'll see in a conventional, I'm a kind of a bad example because I get in the same position as both, but shoulders are here if you drew a line, hips are here if you drew a line.
Right.
I get into that same exact position here.
Yeah.
And that's just based on my mobility and leverages.
Right.
But if your hips are significantly lower or in a more advantageous position, one stands for the other, often that's what you'll be stronger at.
Yeah.
The YouTube crowd is pretty young, and for you guys, you shouldn't make the same mistakes that somebody like myself has made, who's 575 years old.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Hey! You guys should be strong at a lot of different things. Alan promotes strongman. He also does some Olympic lifting. He's moving around really well in different positions. Now, just how weak is it if he comes to me and says, hey, Bell, what's your best clean? And I'm like, I don't know, I don't really do it. Or, what's your best log press? I don't know, I don't really do it. You guys who are younger out there that still have the ability to move, I don't do some of these things because they would compromise my goals towards these other things that I'm chasing right now. But for you younger guys out there, there was a time where I did other stuff other than just powerlifted, but I powerlifted myself out of the ability to do some of these other things to be able to move and be as athletic as I'd like to be. You guys don't make that same mistake. Follow along with the different things that he's providing for you, the different information that he has out there, and really try to take pride in being able to do multiple tasks and being strong all around. Somebody asks you a sumo pull, somebody asks you a sumo pull, you should be like, oh, I don't really know, because I don't do it. You should start to learn and embrace, and that's why he's here. He came here to kind of learn this movement. I had him come in here, he taught me a bunch of stuff about stretching. I'm gonna let him take over when it comes to stretching and the mobility stuff, because I don't know, look how tight I am, I don't know shit about it. He knows a lot more about it than I do. Listen to the experts out there, and you're gonna get a lot of the results you're looking for.
Yeah, you're building that base when you're first starting out, and then eventually you can peak to it.
You're right.
Louis Simmons is a big proponent of GPP, just getting strong in multiple areas. And if you build that base, you have a lot more foundation to go chase whatever you want in the future.
Right. Let me just show you guys something real quick. If I was to try to do a sumo deadlift without the bar, if I'm to kind of like line up here and try to get in position and pretend there's a barbell here, it'd be about here, right? It's kind of hard. I gotta have my knees forward and I end up in this kind of funky position. But we don't have to really worry about that because we can utilize the barbell to get ourselves in a better position.
Counterweight.
And I took my shoes off because I have like running shoes, and Alan has pointed out before, no lifting in running shoes. It's garbage. So don't do that. So we're here, right? From here I'm going to start to think about, how am I going to get to the barbell? For some of you bigger guys, it might not be the easiest task in the world. For some of you other people, it's just a short trip down to the barbell. When Ed Cohn was here, he's like, oh, you just go like this. And me and Mike were like, what?
And you pull 900. So easy.
Yeah, and he's like, whoop, whoop. And we're like, we can't do that. Anyway, under-over grip is very common once the weight starts to get heavy. Some people prefer a hook grip. I would say challenge yourself, challenge your grip with a double overhand grip all the way up until about 80% or until it starts to get really hard, and then switch to an over-under to challenge your grip and build some grip strength. Grab the bar like yay, grab the bar like yay. I'm not too concerned about with what my back is doing. What I'm concerned about is how am I going to get into a good solid position. I'm going to use the bar to get myself in position. Now if you notice for me, it's going to be a little different than what Mike did. I actually bend my arms a little bit to pull myself down closer to the barbell. And then I scoot myself into position, and when I feel right, I'll elongate the arms a little bit. Might take me a second. Don't worry about it in your warm-ups. If it takes you a minute to get it right, it's okay. It's just warm-up. And now I'm ready to pull. And through your warm-ups, each rep and each set should get a little bit better. There we go. Cool. Take you through some sumo deadlifting, buddy.
Time to get
All right.
500 pounds.
Yeah.
You feel you can get your knees out pretty good?
I'd probably go a little bit wider than that.
Yeah,
Good.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I am here for your movement. So I'm going through here.
So try to keep hips high. There you go. Start to organize all this, flatten her out. Good. Cover this. Start getting your weight back towards me.
Yeah.
Good. And pull from there.
Look at that.
Yep. Control on the way down, knees out, same thing.
Yep.
Weight back. Really good.
Very good.
Way better now.
Yeah.
Good. Really try
You
to
got
pull
some
back this
awesome.
way. Yep. Yep.
When you get it right, you should kind of go ahead and lift your hips up all the way at the bottom there. When you get it right, you're going to be pushing your hips down and back. Once they drop in a position where it feels like you're in a good, comfortable, strong position to pull, that's when you're going to start to pull.
Really good.
If you pull yourself too low, you're going to know right away because your hips are going to be the first thing that shoot up. More to weight.
Yeah.